Welcome to this week's edition of Outdoors Online, a weekly webcast produced by the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. I'm your host, Tom Jensen. Our fishing previews continue this week. My guest is Jason Lee. Jason is the fishery supervisor for the North Central District. Jason, you've got some really unique fisheries in your district.
Yeah, we do. One that comes to mind when you mention unique is Nelson Lake. It's a lake that has a powerhouse on it.
Warm water discharge.
Yeah, it discharges warm water. We've got some unique fish in there, largemouth bass. It's our best largemouth bass fishery in the district. There's also some really good bluegill and crappie populations in there. So yeah, then we've got trout lakes scattered around the state and some unique stuff.
The jewel of your district, or at least the one that gets the most fishing pressure, I would suppose, is Lake Audubon.
That's right, yeah. It's typically a pretty busy place. The walleye population in Lake Audubon is doing well. Our summer netting survey showed a good catch of walleye again last year, similar to years prior to that. Saw a little bit of an improvement in the size structure. Fish are a little bit larger, so yeah, it's looking good. There's some big pike in Audubon. There's been a few caught this winter. Of course, access was a challenge this winter. It didn't receive near the pressure it normally does because we did have a lot of snow early, but yeah, it should be good.
You have some really nice smaller fisheries as well. Some new ones.
We do, yeah. This is Coal Lake. This is one that we've been stocking with walleyes for 3 years now, and like many of our new walleye fisheries, the initial stocks grow really fast and get to say 14-15 inches in a couple of years, so catchable fish in a couple of years. So this one received a lot of ice fishing pressure this winter. Some locals were down here, opened the access road up to the lake, and there were some good catches down here. So this is one, yeah.
Yeah, the Garrison Diversion string of lakes is also in your district.
Right, and that's one that I recommend for smallmouth bass. The bass populations are doing really well in there. There's a lot of bass. There's some big bass. The northern pike have expanded somewhat in the canal lakes and the actual canal. So yeah.
You were mentioning a number of species, and you do have a large number of species. I want to cover each one by one. Let's start with walleyes.
Sure. Walleyes, as far as lakes I would recommend, of course, is Lake Audubon. Moving east of here a bit, north of Turtle Lake, Brecken and Holmes, and Crooked Lake. Moving a little farther east, one of our newer walleye lakes is Stober Lake, up in east of McCluskey. That one's done really well. It's got a good number of nice sized walleye in it. Moving north of there a bit, both Antelope and Clear Lake in Pierce County have good walleye populations right now. A little farther north, Lake Metagoshi in the Turtle Mountains is doing well for walleyes. So yeah, a lot. Buffalo Lodge has a decent number of larger walleye in it. So.
Sure. Let's move on to northern.
Sure. Probably our best northern pike lake in the district is Buffalo Lodge up by Granville. That one's doing good. Sometimes we're a little concerned about dissolved oxygen levels in that lake. It's fairly shallow, but a good sized lake. We checked that this winter and it was looking pretty good, so that's not a concern there. Up in that area, Rice Lake in Ward County, McCody Lake produced a lot of pike this winter. Some other ones, Crooked Lake, Long Lake in McLean County north of Crooked Lake, Lake Metagoshi up in the Turtle Mountains, Long Lake in the Turtle Mountains has a good number of pike. So yeah, good number of pike in the district.
You might be one of the only supervisors that has muskie in your district.
We do, yeah. A couple different systems. The McCluskey Canal, we stock them in a couple of the different canal lakes, either New Johns or East Park Lake annually. They aren't real high density populations of muskie, but there's a fair number in there, and there's some real big ones in there. And then the other lake that we've been stocking with muskie is Lake Audubon. I think we're about 5 or 6 years into the muskie stockings there now. Again, not a real high abundance of muskie, but we do see a few of them and hear of a few caught by anglers.
It
So.
makes for a nice surprise when you're walleye fishing.
Yeah, yeah.
You mentioned smallmouth bass. Now you have some real gems for smallmouth fishing.
Right, yeah, Lake Audubon has done really well for smallmouth bass in recent years, and like the walleye, we've seen somewhat of an improvement of the size structure, a few more larger fish, and that one gets quite a bit of activity for smallies. And then the other one is the canal lakes, and again, they've done well in there, good sized fish, lots of them.
How about panfish?
Yeah, panfish, bluegills, Harmony Lake north of Hazen is a good spot. See a lot of families down there fishing. A good place to just catch a bunch of fish. Nelson Lake has a good number of both crappie and bluegill. Moving up north in the Turtle Mountains, Lake Metagoshi is probably our best bluegill lake. So, yeah, lots. And then some scattered perch lakes around the district. Antelope Lake, Clear Lake, Richard Lake, south of Drake. Dakota has produced some nice perch in the last couple of years. So.
Yeah. Your district gets a lot of winter fishing. Now, of course, you mentioned you did have some access problems, but for the most part, you've got some really good winter fishing spots.
We do, yeah. And of course, Audubon always comes to mind when you're talking ice fishing. And it did on some of the spots this winter up in the Totten Trail area. They kept that area open pretty good with snow, so that received quite a bit of pressure. A lot of the other lakes this winter, though, were some of the ones that were off the beaten path were pretty hard to get to. But
any winter kill issues?
Not that we've seen. We checked dissolved oxygen levels the third week of February, and everything looked pretty good at that time. But things could get worse. But we had that nice warm up during the winter where a lot of the snow melted on the ice, so the sun was able to penetrate the ice and get some dissolved oxygen back into the water. So I think we should be in pretty good shape in the North Central District.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot, Jason, and like I do with all the fishery supervisors, ask them to take a day off and go fishing. I'm not going to be so specific about taking today. We're kind of in a transition period where the ice is too thin to get on and ice fish, and there isn't much open water.
Yeah.
So give it a couple of weeks when there is open water. Anywhere, any lake in your district and any species, where would you go and what would you do?
Sure. I'd probably head here to Coal Lake. It's close to home for me, and like I said, it's got a good number of walleye in it, and they're a little hungry right now. They've got the forage base eaten down pretty good, so they're fairly easy to catch, and kind of a neat lake with a lot of trees around it. So yeah, not real busy.
Great, Jason, thanks.
You bet.
We move on now, talk to Jeff Hendrickson. Jeff is the fishery supervisor in the Southwest District. Jeff, looks like the ice is off many of the lakes in your district. You've already got some fishing activity going on.
Yeah, the ice has gone everywhere in the Southwest, and people are out fishing.
Jeff, your district really doesn't have any big bodies of water per se, but you do have some great fisheries in your medium-sized lakes.
Yeah, lakes like Lake Chida, Patterson Lake, Bowman Haley, get pretty good variety of fish in all those lakes: walleye, northern, perch, crappie.
Right,
bluegills.
even the small lakes in your district have some great fishing opportunities.
Yeah, and we have a lot of bass, bluegill fisheries and pike, perch fisheries in the Southwest.
All right, you've got a wide variety of fish species in your district, Jeff, probably more than a lot of the districts in the state. Let's go through these species one by one and start with walleye.
Okay, walleye, pretty good fishing for walleye in Bowman Haley, Patterson Lake, Chida. Indian Creek, kind of a sleeper lake, small lake. It's got good walleye population in it. And we have a few other ones with just small walleyes in them. But
so a wide variety of lakes that are kind of geographically spread out through your district then.
Yep, mostly the bigger lakes, but a few of the smaller ones have walleye.
All right, let's talk about northern.
Northern's same lakes, Chida, Bowman Haley, Patterson. Smaller lake that has good northern population is Kalina down in Bowman County. And it's got pretty nice population of pike, actually.
Good size pike?
Yeah, good place to go get a nice one, maybe even a 40-incher.
That's big pike.
Yeah.
Let's talk about one species that many of the fisheries in the state or the supervisors don't have in their districts, and that's trout lakes.
Yeah, in the southwest we have several trout lakes that are stocked annually with rainbow trout, and then they provide instant fisheries for the most part, and then a few of them like Davis Dam, Sheep Creek, Mott Watershed, we have what we call carryover trout, meaning they live from year to year in those lakes, and they can get fairly large, up to 5 pounds.
Okay, what do you mean by instant fisheries?
Well, basically they're 10 or 12 inches when we stock them, and you can fish for them right away.
They're great for the kids.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
Let's talk about panfish.
Panfish, bluegills we have a lot of lakes in the southwest that have bluegill, and in most of them there's trophy bluegill up to 10 inches, and lakes like Odland Dam, Mott Watershed, Davis Dam, Sheep Creek, they all have pretty nice bluegill populations. Camel's Hump is another one. Pretty nice bluegill populations in all of them right now.
All right, Jeff, you've got a couple of lakes in your district, and let's call them, for lack of a better word, sleeper lakes. Lakes that people might not know about, but there's good populations of fish and some excellent fishing opportunities.
Yeah, Odland Dam would be one of them. There's a few people from far away that know about that one, but it's kind of out in the, just north of beach, and it's kind of out in the far away from everywhere.
Sure.
Let's say that. Davis Dam is another one.
Doesn't get a lot of pressure then.
Yep. Down in the Badlands, it's kind of a nice place to go. And several other smaller lakes. Gascoigne is one. That one had a little winter kill this year, but mostly carp. And Larson Lake by Regent, been a nice little sleeper lake.
All right. I'm going to put you on the spot like I do with all the supervisors, Jeff. Take an afternoon off, go fishing, any lake or any species in your district. Where would you go and what would you do?
Yeah, I don't know. I might go to Indian Creek. It's a nice little lake. It's got good perch population. The perch don't get real large there, but you got a chance of catching some nice walleyes. We've aged walleye over 20 years old in that lake. And bluegill, large bluegill in Indian Creek.
All right, Jeff, thanks.
You're welcome.
If you need directions to one of the lakes the guys mentioned, or in fact any fishing lake in North Dakota, the new March-April edition of North Dakota Outdoors magazine is an invaluable tool. The special fishing issue has lake maps, driving directions, boat access information, and even what species of fish are contained in each lake. Also a fishing outlook from game and fish biologists. If you have a subscription to the magazine, it should be in your mailbox very soon, or the issue is viewable online at the Game and Fish website at gf.nd.gov. For Jason and Jeff and the rest of the staff here at North Dakota Game and Fish, thanks for joining us for Outdoors Online. We'll see you again next week.